Hey everybody, join us for the Journey to Flourishing. Our guest today is Dr. Wayne Hammond, PhD, and he's going to be talking about how he took the steps to step into flourishing and a flourishing workplace. Can't wait to see you in this next episode. Welcome to the Flourishing Workplace Podcast. Join today's leaders as we explore what it means to thrive at work, with purpose, safety, and strength at the core. Flourishing Workplace is changing the world by changing the workplace. Well, hey, everybody, welcome back to our next episode of the Flourishing Workplace Podcast. So exciting to see you here, Dr. Wayne. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Yeah, how are you doing?
I'm doing well.
You look fantastic.
Yeah, we're staying in the game.
Staying in the game, right, for another day. So, if you don't know Dr. Wayne Hammond has a very accomplished resume. He has a very, very accomplished professional profile as a psychologist, as a professor, as a researcher, and actually even as a clinical psychologist. And so, Dr. Wayne, love to, really have you lean in and just tell us a little bit about your personal journey, and particularly because you become an expert in the science of flourishing. And so just tell us about that journey and process, please.
Well, it's my pleasure. Yeah, I think a journey is probably a really good word to describe it because, based on my own life experiences, but even more academically, originally kind of on a spiritual journey, theology and concepts of that, master divinity. But as part of that journey, really trying to figure out what, how do we as human beings experience a sense of purpose, and then how do we align with that?
Okay.
And so in my psychology training, our tendency was if you're doing something wrong or you're struggling, we'll diagnose it, we'll put a label on it.
Right.
And then we sort of start thinking in terms of, well, if that's who you are,
right,
this is what we need to do. And what I found in my initial practice is that people do not want to be fixed. They don't want to be seen that way because they're just trying to get through the day.
Right.
They may have a need and they may just not have the awareness of how to meet that need. And therefore, they tend to result with certain symptoms. So that was a real paradigm shift for my thinking. And it started to move me more to this belief that actually everybody does want to be successful.
Right.
And they actually do have the ability to develop the strengths to meet those needs and therefore align their strengths to their aspirations. So that's a real shift away from what's wrong with you,
right,
to focus on what's strong with you, which then led me to the whole idea of resilience. How do we bounce back from situations? How do we learn from it? But then flourishing kind of became part of my thinking through Martin Seligman's work. And it was there that I started to realize is that flourishing is much more than just being happy. It's actually a deep sense of contentedness that I know who I am. I know what I want to do in life. And I'm starting to develop some lived experiences that give me the confidence that no matter what challenge or opportunity comes my way, I will go through it in a way that, I may be anxious, I may experience, mistakes, but I'll be a better person for it.
Right.
And I'll create a new way of thinking and a new way of creating success.
Wow.
So that's kind of laying the basis for even the model that I embrace now, that idea of what's a flourishing life and how do we apply it personally and how do we apply it in our workplace?
That's fantastic. I love that description of the journey. So what does it mean at a human level to flourish?
Yeah, flourishing to me is a mindset orientation. So some of us don't believe in ourselves. Therefore, when we're faced with situations, we back away from it. Some of us are just trying to get through the day. We're triggered by lots of different situations in life. And it's not that we're a bad person. It just means that we just haven't learned how to process that experience in a way that's positive. So to me, flourishing is, again, it goes back to that idea of getting a deep understanding that I'm a good person. I can do things. I can I can create success in my life. And that you're starting to embrace that journey by stepping outside your comfort zone.
Okay.
And trying things you've never done before. I mean, even in raising my own children, I always ask them, hey, how was your day? And I wasn't asking them how comfortable it was. What I was asking was, did you actually make mistakes? Did you do things? Did you try things out of curiosity and learn from them?
Right.
So that now, next time you're faced with something, you're now starting to discover, I can actually apply certain strengths and I can actually determine my outcomes.
Right. And
I can learn from them. And so some people say flourishing is, how I've arrived. No, it's a lifelong journey. Every day, we're all going through different developmental challenges, but we come out of it at the other end of the day and say, hey, that was a good day. Might have been a tough day, but it was a good day.
Hmm. Yeah, and so this I'm curious about this idea of a mindset orientation. Um, when people think about a mindset,
Hmm.
sometimes they have this idea that, boy, this is just my mindset, and I can't change it. I'm sort
Right.
of stuck here. Is that, in your experience, what would you say to that? And not to judge somebody, but to really just help them actually.
Right. Yeah. Like I think as all of us are on our journey,
Mhm,
I'm a big believer in this idea that we experience things and then
mhm,
it's those lived experiences that actually start to determine how we think about ourselves.
mhm,
There's a lot of people out there that take these tests, whether it's a personality test or IQ test or whatever the case might be, and it says this is who you are.
mhm,
And then what the challenge is that people then tend to live within that focus,
mhm,
live within that bubble
mhm.
of, oh, I'm a person that's depressed, or I have a high IQ, or I
Right,
have a type A personality.
right,
But life doesn't really respond well to that because sometimes we're faced with situations where having a type A personality doesn't fit.
right,
And so
right,
I'm a big believer and have seen the evidence that we all change over time,
right.
but there's certain characteristics about how we think about ourselves
Mhm.
doesn't.
Okay.
And it's that belief that I'm a person of value.
Right.
I'm a person of worth.
Mhm,
I actually have something to offer. But the humbling experience is that I can also learn from others.
mhm,
And when we come together, whether in a team at work or as a family, if we understand our strengths but know how to sort of
mm,
interact with others in a way where they're given permission with their ideas and
mhm,
strengths, we actually come up with things that we never thought of.
mhm.
And we create something new and innovative and going forward.
Yeah, right on. So that's fantastic. So you lead a company right now called Flourishing Life Technology. That's the formal name. It's flourishinglife.com, right? Tell us a little bit about that and what you actually do and what the focus is for your company.
Yeah. So, um, as I've gone through training and talked to people about going to workshops, and it's really amazing how people say, hey, I went to this workshop. I really got excited about it. And then talk to them 2 months later. It's kind of like, hey, never even happened.
Hmm.
And by the way, the book I paid for is on a shelf collecting dust.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but part of my work as a psychologist is how do we hear the story of people, how they see life,
Mhm.
how they perceive themselves and interpret the world around them.
Right.
And so designed a questionnaire that gives you a snapshot
Mm,
of how you're thinking at that point in time, and
mm.
therefore how you're coping and how you're interacting.
Right on.
And it doesn't say that's static, that's who
Hmm.
you are. It
Hmm.
just means at this point in time,
Hmm.
that's what your lived experience has brought you to and what
Yeah.
you've learned.
Yeah.
And by looking at that, you can sort of say, okay, if these are the things that I like about what I've learned, but maybe there's areas that I should reconsider, or maybe I should learn more about.
Mhm.
So therefore, you're sort of developing an accumulative idea of how do I bring my strengths together in
Mhm.
adaptive, creative ways.
Nice.
So it's a baseline that can be repeated. And so flourishing life is really about how do we hear that story? How do we understand that story?
Mhm.
And then how do we build that story forward?
Mhm. And so the tools that you provide, would a person need to be a psychologist to administer them? Do I need a white jacket and
Yeah.
several letters behind my name or?
Yeah. I'm hoping not. Uh, yeah. Because really, one of my intents of the questionnaire is that it was not a diagnostic tool. You
Right,
don't need to have this so called PhD in medical science to
right.
answer it. It's really a common sense approach.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I've got parents working with their children. I've got
Hmm.
managers in a organization using it with
Hmm.
their teams.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so it's a way to bring that story up and invite people to talk about it.
Hmm.
And then how do we now think in terms of what are some of the goals or expectations we have? How do
Hmm.
we align those strengths with it and work
Excellent.
together?
So I'm curious when teams or organizations or even schools I know you've worked with utilize these tools. What are some of the results that they start to notice?
Yeah. So in education, one of the key factors I think for a lot of youth is they're sort of said, this is the way you learned. And if you
Mhm.
don't learn, we're going to grade you. And
Okay.
therefore, that's the type of student you are.
Hmm. Hmm.
And there's a lot of students that are coming from backgrounds where that's not a good fit.
Right.
Matter of fact, probably works with about 30% of students. The other 70% are struggling.
Right.
And so I've worked with educators, and it's really interesting how a lot of people would say, well, you got to change the student. And my starting point was, no, maybe we need to work with the teachers.
Hmm.
because we know that change is always in the context of relationships.
Right.
And so I've had a number of schools, in Calgary and across Canada and the States, where if we get the teachers thinking from the perspective that all my students can learn, all my students can be successful, but I need to learn their story.
Right.
Therefore, start engaging them in ways that make sense to their story of how they learn, how they see themselves, and to become smart risk takers so that they actually step out of their comfort zone and learn. And what we found in some of our studies, for example, we had one school that was in the bottom 10% of the school district with regards to its academic, social, emotional, behavioral health.
Okay.
And within 3 years, just because I focused on how teachers worked with their relationships, creating safety, valuing students, encouraging them from a growth mindset perspective, moved into the 70, 80th percentile.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's really fascinating watching these students who at one point was saying, I'm a poor student, or I'm a bad student, move to a mindset of I'm a learner.
Wow.
I can actually do things that if I'm given permission to make mistakes and learn from it, to know that nobody's going to beat me up emotionally because I said something different, and creating that zone of safety, psychological safety, they just flower.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you've given them a template for life.
Wow.
Not just at academic performance.
Well, I suspect that sense of identity and worth and value has a major bearing on someone's even capacity to learn.
Yeah.
And so it's very exciting that it sounds like you're augmenting that and supporting that. So somebody just tuning into this podcast, Flourishing Workplace, how could they get a hold of you, Dr. Wayne? How could they find out a little bit more about what you're up to?
Yeah, ideally the best place to go to is www.flourishingadvantage.com.
Okay, flourishingadvantage.com.
It has as a primary focus the workplace environment and personal growth and professional development.
Okay.
But we also work with school divisions and educators across North America, Canada, United States.
Okay. So flourishingadvantage.com. Good news is, everybody, in our next episode with Dr. Wayne, he's going to come on back and he's going to actually talk about some of the work that they're doing in organizations. Of course, a little bit of schools. They do a lot of work with schools, but I think in our next conversation, we'll spend more time talking about this idea of teams, organizations, and workplaces. So make sure you tune in for that. And thanks today, Dr. Wayne, for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in to the Flourishing Workplace Podcast. Let's keep building spaces where people can thrive. Until next time, lead with purpose and let's let our workplaces flourish. At Flourishing Workplace, we're changing the world by changing the workplace.